What is happening, everyone? It is August 23rd, 2024. Been about 2 months. Time for another movie collection update. Now, to start the update, gotta throw out my shameless plugs for the projects I'm involved in, so gotta get these out of the way. First and foremost, as I've been saying, we are so close to the release of the John Wayne Gacy Murders, Life and Death in Chicago, the 8-episode docu-series I have a little role in, spread across 3 of the 8 episodes, which is really exciting. Spent some time with John Borowski, the guy that made it, at Flashback Weekend. I got that amazing poster over there framed up on my wall. I'm very proud of it. Blu-ray pre-orders are going up now. The Blu-ray is supposed to release first week to mid-September. It was actually originally August 23rd, but he had a last-minute music cue that had to get changed in the series, so that's why now it got delayed like a week or two. So the physical Blu-ray release of that is going to be first week of September, roughly, and then streaming. It will be streaming on Amazon Prime last week of September, first week of October. So, stay tuned. I'll be doing lots of videos advocating for it. I'll be plugging away at that on all my social media and on here. So be on the lookout for the John Wayne Gacy Murders, Life and Death in Chicago. And also, if you are a fan of 80s arena rock, like Survivor and Journey, I want to give you the opportunity here to check out NIGHTBOUND by Find Me. It's an album that comes out on September 13th. Total 80s rock, total melodic, soundtrack-like sound. It even has a couple original songs by Jim Peterick from Survivor written on there. And the reason I am plugging away, if you look at this album cover, I know it's dark and I know it's hard to see, but if you look closely at that guy changing the tire, yeah, that's me. So I never thought model would be a word on my resume, but there we go. Changing the tire. Okay, now that the shameless promotion is out of the way, let's get to the update with the emergency action life-saving first aid video. Every time I come across these obscure, weird VHS tapes, I always want to pick them up just because there's something to them, and I was hoping this would be a lot of cheesy reenactments. Which it is, but it also contains some pretty harrowing real-life footage from fire departments and other EMT-type services. And, yeah, for 50 cents that I paid for this tape, it's certainly a time capsule with some very interesting footage in it. So there's just an oddball VHS for the collection. Now, this one just came out this year. I've been so busy. 2024 has been an absolute whirlwind. So I did not get a chance to see this one in the theater, so I picked up the Blu-ray. I heard nothing but good things about it. That was my computer over there. So I heard nothing but good things about it, so I really wanted to check it out. So I sought out Abigail, the movie about the vampire ballerina girl. And it delivers on that premise. It's really crazy. It's really self-aware. It doesn't take itself that seriously. I definitely think it was pretty overhyped, because I know some people who are calling this the best film of the year, their favorite one. I didn't think that highly of it, but I was entertained. I had decent fun with it. It's from the same people that made Ready or Not, which is, funnily enough, a movie I'm not a fan of. And some of my problems with this is that it sticks too closely to Ready or Not. The setting is almost the same. The lighting is almost the same, so I guess Radio Silence really has a thing for these old, mansion-type looks. And people explode in this like they do in Ready or Not. There are a lot of parallels between this and Ready or Not, and I thought that was a little distracting. So it's not one of my favorites of the year, but overall, it was entertaining. I'm glad I watched it. I'm a huge Simpsons fan, always have been. You see, every time I do one of these updates, I got this Simpsons blanket here behind me. Well, this is a 6-part documentary series, and I'm like, well, shit, I never heard of this before, but I am in. Icons Unearthed, The Simpsons. And this one's really cool because this one is strictly the behind-the-scenes production side of The Simpsons. So there's nothing here with the voice actors, there's nothing here about the content. So there's no episodes, there's no screenwriting, there's no jokes. It's strictly about the production and the behind the scenes of the show, which is interesting. And I've never seen that type of a take on The Simpsons before. So this was able to show me a whole new light on that. The best interview on here is with Bill Oakley. If you watch that, it's awesome. Yeah, it's 6 episodes and it goes by pretty quick. You learn a lot about the world of The Simpsons writers and the producers and what it was like working with the networks. It was a new spin on a Simpsons documentary instead of rehashing the same old shit every Simpsons fan probably knows. So yeah, this was cool. And then I watched this last month because I had to watch this in July if I was going to make it fitting. I had never seen this before, never heard of it, but I liked the cast, so I decided to check out Cold in July. Pretty cool Southern Gothic, you know, good old boy thriller. And this is a movie that changes its gears a lot throughout it. It starts with the opening scene of a home invasion type premise, but then you get to where the movie climaxes and you're like, okay, how did we get from here to here? It stars Michael C. Hall, Dexter, which is a show I never really watched much, so I can't really comment on him as Dexter too much, and Don Johnson. And Don Johnson is a blast in this. His character doesn't come in until around 1 hour in, but once his character is in this, he livens it up so much with this car that he's driving and his good old boy attitude. It's a cool Southern noir. They use the word pulpy thriller to describe this. Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell, has a very small, menacing part in this, so it was interesting to see him. It felt almost like a John Carpenter movie with the way it was shot, because it takes place in the 80s. It feels like a John Carpenter movie with the way the cinematography, the lighting, and especially the music. There's this synth kind of music in there that is straight out of an early 80s John Carpenter film. For something I never heard of, it was pretty good. It was pretty intriguing. I wanted to see what happened next. It was a very hard film to predict where it was going. And yeah, pretty decent watch. This one is a Blu-ray upgrade, so it's actually still sealed in the shrink wrap. But I've seen this so many times, I don't need to watch it again to talk about it. One Crazy Summer, Savage Steve Holland's follow-up to Better Off Dead, which for those of you who don't know is my #1 favorite film of all time. This is not quite Better Off Dead, but there's a lot of similarities to it. Obviously, it stars John Cusack. There's a lot of cast members from Better Off Dead that have little appearances throughout here, like Curtis Armstrong, Laura Waterbury. Great soundtrack, great summer vibes. Mark Metcalf as the villain is great. Yeah, this is a good one. Always an 80s comedy I really loved, really enjoyed. If you haven't seen it, you got to get on that. This one was a recommendation from my good friend Matt, Rambo Wrath for Life on YouTube. He called me out and said, Ken, I watched this movie and it made me think of you. It's your kind of bad 80s movie. You got to see it. I'm like, well, I'm sold. Nightmare Beach. With John Saxon. And he's right, the movie is terrible. Like, this is a really shitty movie, but it is funny and it is entertaining. It's a sex comedy, first and foremost, that has a subplot of a slasher killer going around electrocuting people in all these crazy ways with his motorcycle. There's a scene in an elevator that's a lot of fun, and just the effects. Not a single person in this can act to save their life. John Saxon is in it. God bless him, he's trying, but he isn't really given much to work with. And there's like 5 different plots happening all at the same time, involving biker gangs and the sex hijinks and the killer and this other stuff. There's so much going on. It's such a bizarre blend of 80s B-moviness. I would not put this on the same level as Hard Ticket to Hawaii or Miami Connection, as those are works of art of themselves, especially Hard Ticket to Hawaii. But this is an unusual enough one that it's just like, how did this thing get made? So, thank you very much, Matt, Rambo Wrath for Life, for the recommendation on Nightmare Beach. This one was okay. Back in May when I went to Alaska and I did that vacation, I did a escape room, which was the first time I had ever done one. It was really cool. I had fun. So I figured I would watch the movie Escape Room, because I love these single location bottle thrillers. Like Cube is, a grade A example. There's another one that I love called Tower Block. So this is another one of those. It's just okay, though. I feel like there was a really larger-than-life premise with this movie that this one just doesn't quite live up to. It's predictable in a lot of ways. It's not terrible. I know there's a sequel. I'll watch the sequel. I'm not rushing to it, but my plan is to do an all-horror movie update, or at least try to get as mostly horror as I can for my October movie update. So will I pick the sequel up? Probably. We'll see. It's watchable. It's entertaining. The scene with the upside-down billiard room bar type thing, that was really cool, and that was really tense. I wish the movie had more moments such as that. But, I mean, overall, it's middle of the road. It's not terrible, but it's not something you'll remember. The ending gets really prolonged and kind of dumb, but, Adding to the Kevin Bacon collection today with The River Wild, another movie where he gets to play a slimy villain, which Kevin Bacon always does with gusto, alongside John C. Reilly, who it's always fun seeing him in these thrillers and weird type of movies. He was in Night Watch, which is one that I got earlier this year and I talked about. And I'm like, what the hell is John C. Reilly doing in this? Well, this is a movie that gave me kind of the same vibe as that. It was good for a watch. Kevin Bacon, as always, is fantastic, and he's the one who really keeps you watching this. I just wish it was a little bit more thrilling and more suspenseful. It just felt kind of like a movie that was going through the motions down the rapids, Even something like Whitewater Summer, I have a lot more to say about and to dig my teeth into than I do something like this, where it's just really straightforward. It's PG-13, and there's just really nothing to set it apart outside of the fact Kevin Bacon does a really good job in it. So, again, this one's okay. Now, this one I actually really enjoyed. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe this is the final film of Tony Scott. I believe. If I'm wrong, correct me down below. Inspired by a true story, we have Unstoppable. Movie about Denzel having to stop a runaway train filled with toxic chemicals while kids are on the tracks on a field trip and the country's in danger. And I had a lot of fun with this. This was entertaining as all get out. It never takes itself that seriously, but it takes itself seriously enough. This was just entertaining. It just kept me into it the whole time. I really wanted to see what would happen. It's very, again, surface level, but I really dug that. It was just a fun blockbuster type movie before blockbusters got too consistently big, with trying to outcompete one another. This was just a good time, a good runaway train of a time. And speaking of that, I was not a fan of Runaway Train with Eric Roberts and Jon Voight. I know that one gets all the praise. I was not a fan of that movie at all. I would rather watch this way ahead of that. Ton of fun with that. Now I got some sports movies coming up for you, and the first one, unfortunately, is another disappointment. I was like, okay, with these two legendary characters and these two legendary actors in a comedy, this should be great. And outside of like two scenes that made me laugh, I really did not get anything out of Grudge Match, guys. I am sorry. I love Stallone, but it just didn't do it for me. The scene where him and De Niro are in the green suits getting their bodies casted for the video game and they start fighting, that was great. Outside of that scene, I couldn't tell you a thing about this. Should have been so much better. It's honestly a tragedy. I mean, they even had LL Cool J in this, and he couldn't even add much to it. And I love LL Cool J. What the hell, Grudge Match? You broke my heart. But if there's one thing I love even more than that, ever since I was a kid, I have always loved baseball movies. And just sticking with this end of summer, fall theme, I'm picking up, I got 3 baseball movies. I don't think any of them really need much introduction. Major League, comedy classic. I've seen it before, picked it up, upgraded it on Blu-ray. Seen this a million times when I was a kid. Again, I found this used for $5. Had to pick it up from my shop. The Sandlot, this 20th anniversary edition, which it's cool because it's like stitched like a baseball here. And it even comes when you look in here. And I kept it sealed, but it's got trading cards of all the players. I have not seen any of the Sandlot sequels, and I really do not intend on it. But, you know, another childhood movie right there, Sandlot. And then this one was a first-time watch for me. I had never seen this one. Little Big League. It's got a far premise, not too far removed from Rookie of the Year, which is one of my all-time favorites. I love Rookie of the Year. Somebody needs to put that on Blu-ray, please. Not as good as that. I wouldn't put this one on the same level as those two. Moderately entertaining, though, with its larger-than-life premise of a kid inheriting the team and all the shenanigans that come with it. Good cast. John Ashton is in there. And Dennis Farina. Dennis Farina is in this very briefly, but he is playing such a Dennis Farina wisecracking asshole. Like, I never get tired of seeing Dennis Farina be Dennis Farina in these types of movies, and I wish he was in this more, because his character was a blast and a half to watch. You know, not something I'm probably going to revisit often, but a fine enough family 90s kids baseball movie. Okay, 2 double features of action thrillers, and these two are just insanity to the max. Relentlessly stupid, relentlessly entertaining, relentlessly awesome. I love both of these, Crank and Crank 2 High Voltage, even though I had to buy Crank 2 High Voltage twice, because apparently it's very infamous with having defective Blu-rays. So beware if you buy Crank 2 High Voltage, because I had to buy 2 copies of it to fit in this. Thankfully, someone was selling the disc only on eBay, so I was able to grab that. These are just pure arcade video game movies to the max. So stupid, so hilarious, so over the top, so absurd, so offensive. I love them both. If you're an action movie fan and you haven't seen either of the Crank movies, what the hell are you doing? Love some Statham. And then we go from one bald icon to another, from Jason Statham to Bruce Willis. I have not seen the Jackal, so I cannot comment on that one, though it does sound really interesting because Bruce Willis is the villain of that one, so I'm down for that. But Mercury Rising, which I did watch, and I did enjoy. Typical 90s thriller. I really don't have too much to say about it, but it was good, and it kept me intrigued. And there's always a new flame on movies nowadays where Alec Baldwin fires a gun. So, there's that. But I did enjoy Mercury Rising, so if anyone's seen The Jackal, let me know if that's good, seeing Bruce Willis as the villain. And this is another one. Sadly, no Blu-ray release. I don't know why I never got to this sooner. This was an entertaining thrill ride of a movie, from the city to the wilderness in the Pacific Northwest, back to the city with a great cast. Shoot to Kill, autographed by Richard Mazer, who I met at Flashback Weekend. He was very happy to see someone bring this up. But you've got Sidney Poitier and Tom Berenger teaming up to catch a killer in the woods who has infiltrated a hiking group. Kirstie Alley's the leader of the group, with all these people like Richard Mazer, Andrew Robinson, Clancy Brown. My only gripe with this is that the whodunit aspect of the movie is kind of terrible. They set it up like it's a mystery, like it's a whodunit, which one of the guys is the killer. But when the movie clearly plays you the killer's voice early on, and then you see it, it's like, okay, well, there's really not much mystery here, but Nevertheless, it's a very engaging, thrilling action thriller, and it really needs a Blu-ray, although it's a Touchstone Pictures movie, so who knows when the hell that's ever going to happen. Great time with Shoot to Kill, though. Very underrated. And we close out with one of my favorite shows that I always, back in the day, preferred to Saturday Night Live. We have the best of MadTV seasons 8, 9, and 10. Always gotta love me some MadTV. I saw this, had to pick it up. I've got such good memories of watching MadTV when I was way too young to do so, mind you. I always loved it way better than Saturday Night Live, so had to pick that up. Alright everyone, thank you for watching the August 23rd update. Stick around probably 2 months or so in October. I'm going to try to do an all horror update. I've already got 3 movies purchased, stacked up over there, horror, that I've been saving for the fall. So that should be a pretty fun update when we get to all the horror stuff. Thank you for watching. Leave your comments down below. Remember to check out John Wayne Gacy Murders, Life and Death in Chicago. Blu-ray release first week of September. Pre-order link is in the description below. Streaming on Amazon Prime roughly a month later. And the Find Me album, Nightbound. Thank you, and take care.